Hey guys!
Hi guys!
Alright, so we got back from the new Power Rangers movie, and we want to make this review in a couple different sections, so I think it deserves it. If you don't want spoilers, all I will say is, go watch it. I think it's a good enough movie that it definitely deserves your eyes in the theater. It deserves money, basically, I should say.
Yes, because we want another one!
Yeah, we want another one, but we do want to split our review in two different sections. Number one, just as a movie.
Right.
No preconceived notions, no sort of fanboyism or anything like that. So, just if I went and sat down in the movie and I was a kid maybe, or somebody who wasn't a fan of Power Rangers, we want to review it
from an outside perspective.
Outside perspective. And then after that, we're going to review it in a way that will probably be more, I don't want to say ranting, but, you know, things that more bothered us because we're Power Rangers fans. Not that it necessarily deserves it. Just, you know how it goes.
Bits and pieces that kind of annoyed us, but then we're kind of like, oh, that's nice. So going back and forth from that aspect.
Alrighty, so let's get into the review. If you don't like spoilers, go ahead and get out, go watch the movie, and come back to this movie later. For some context, if you guys aren't fans of Power Rangers, or maybe you're too young or too old, you didn't really pay attention to Power Rangers was huge. It was really the perfect storm for a show to come on the scene like Power Rangers. The reason it was so big, I mean, you're talking about the 90s. This was a time for ninjas, for karate. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started off. Everybody loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from the 80s kids to the 90s kids. It kept going. We got the live action movies. Power Rangers came on the scene. We're talking about Three Ninjas, Karate Kid,
Surf Ninja.
If we're thinking about computer games or console games, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Double Dragon, these are all things that occurred in the 90s. We even got movies from Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
So it was really the perfect storm for when Power Rangers hit the scene. We have karate mixed with dinosaurs. This was also a time when dinosaurs was big.
So true!
So Jurassic Park, obviously. So it was huge. There was something for boys, there was something for girls. Everybody felt represented, where maybe the Ninja Turtles didn't necessarily represent everybody until later.
True.
It was all boys, it was turtles. So as a kid, you know, you loved Ninja Turtles because it was cool, but how much can you really kind of get into that?
Well, even like with the Power Rangers, if you were kind of the geeky person, you were represented there. If you were the jock, you were there. If you were female, if you were super girly, everyone was there.
And they fought monsters.
Yes!
And it was great. Now, for toys, I cannot think of anything or any show or any series that really demanded so many collectibles. That's businesses wanted their name on everything that had to do with Power Rangers. CVS's would have people that would dress up as Power Rangers. You'd go and say hi to them, and it was just some guy in a suit. I remember even when I was a kid, we went to a play of sorts that had all girls. They were all girls dressed up as Power Rangers. And as a kid, I could tell, okay, Red Ranger does not have boobs, I'm pretty sure.
That's true.
But the reason was because they're, you know, more flexible and everything, and they do all these kicks and stuff like that. So, like I said, Power Rangers were everywhere. Everybody wanted a piece of it. It was huge. When Christmas came around, the black market. This was a time before eBay and the internet and pre-orders.
You actually had to go fight for stuff.
And honestly, you really did.
Really?
Like, this was Black Friday. People would fight for these toys.
It was mayhem, guys. Mayhem.
The 8-inch figures would come out. The monsters come out. The toys. Everything was Power Rangers. So with that said, I just want you to kind of know our background with the Power Rangers, but we want to go into without any...
Slightly obsessed.
No fanboyism. We're going into the movie. So when thinking of Power Rangers, we think of campiness, right?
Very much so.
Everything's campy in a Power Rangers. That's what made it fun. They made really cool monsters, had great outfits. That's what everything was about. It was teenagers and attitude and fighting and karate. That is Power Rangers in its essence. This movie was very campy in that same sort of genre that the Power Rangers that we knew and loved growing up. It really matched that really well. They didn't overdo it where it was tacky. I think both adults and kids can enjoy this movie.
I think so too. I mean, I feel like kids are going to go into this movie and it's going to open their eyes to the Power Rangers world because they don't really have that experience like the adults do. And I feel like the adults can come into it and appreciate it.
Now, I would say the character interaction was fantastic.
Yes, it was. I loved the relationship between the characters, the actual Rangers that was developing throughout the movie.
I was scared when I originally saw like interviews with the actual actors and stuff. I was like, man, I feel like they have no chemistry. But they definitely had chemistry on screen without a doubt. Billy was the star of the show, right?
I was going to say I loved Billy. Like in the original show back in the 90s when I watched it, Billy was kind of this character I didn't really care about.
Yeah.
But this movie, I fell in love with Billy. The actor is amazing that played him.
Yeah, I mean, they took the nerd, like the original Billy. He was just sort of a nerd, and you never believed he could, like, fly and all that stuff. He was just Billy. He was the nerd. He wasn't as cool as Donatello. You know, he wasn't the nerd. But in this movie, they take him, make him a nerd, but do it in a way that is very, not only entertaining, because you do need sort of those laughs, and that's what he provided, was the comic relief, But, you know, he's also just a fun guy and somebody that's lovable.
He's so relatable. If you're a nerd, I feel like you're going to look at Billy's character and see different aspects of yourself in him. I just really loved his portrayal of Billy.
Let's get into Jason, because I think Jason's important. He is obviously the leader of the Power Rangers. How'd you think he did?
I think that he did a great job as an actor. I was enjoying his performance, but I felt like he wasn't really that strong, buff guy that was going to lead the Rangers. I kind of felt like that was lacking a little bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue maybe in that is they didn't really know karate.
No, you're right.
He was the jock. That's how they portrayed him in the movie, that he was like the star quarterback. Yeah. And we finally got to see why his truck was all mashed up.
Right.
He was doing a senior prank, or a homecoming prank, I assume, where they're taking a cow and putting it in the locker room of
kind of a silly prank or whatever.
Either high school or whatever. And the cops find him, and he gets in his truck to drive away, and he hits that car. But I do want to say, when he didn't hit that car very hard, right? Because we looked at each other in the theater,
so. We were like,
and I didn't know if we had a connection. But he's driving it maybe 20 miles an hour, and he hits a parked car, and this car looks like he hit it at 200 miles an hour. He's like spinning, and sparks are going everywhere, and I'm like...
Maybe it's because he turned his headlights off, something swerved. I don't really know what happened,
and
but
then
it was...
later in the movie, when his dad he was like, why did you keep the truck? Are you just trying to remind me of my deal or whatever? And he was like, well, it's not totaled, so you can still use it.
The motor still works.
No way. That truck is messed up, man. The windows are broken. It was probably a $1,000 truck at most to begin with.
Right.
Windows are smashed. Frames gotta be bent. I don't care what he says.
I mean, you can maybe get $500 for it and have the motor.
It would cost that kid more money to fix it, even to be drivable, than to just buy a new one. So I just want to say, what the heck? But I think he did a good job. I thought he did feel like a leader in the movie. And, he just looks... like, I guess, sort of like the old Jason in a way.
He does, very much so.
And it worked. Zach, the mysterious one now, right?
I was nervous because when we saw the trailer, Zach didn't say a whole lot. He had 1 or 2 lines. I was like, crap, he's one of my favorite characters. I really want him to just bring it and do a great job. And he did. He had so many great one-liners. He was super funny, super smart. I really enjoyed him.
So in the original, Zach was kind of like the hip-hop guy, right?
He was.
He was a dancer and all that. Where this guy seemed like he was the only one that actually knew karate.
Yeah, you're right.
But he was a rebel. He's the guy that would just kind of be on his own. He's a loner. He's kind of cool,
Well, he has such a heartbreaking story with his mom being ill and taking care of her, and then living in the trailer park, and then going to the quarry for some relief to get away. I just fell in love with him.
He's got a hard outer shell, but on the inside he's
a big softie.
He's a softie, right?
Right.
I really do enjoy what they did with Zach.
I do too.
Then we get into Trini. Trini was very quiet in the movie, had a lot of issues, a lot of internal issues.
She seemed very disturbed at first. I was kind of like, what is wrong with this girl? And then she had her emotional breakthrough, and I felt like the actress did a great job delivering that, because you can tell she's gone from school to school to school in the last 3 years, and she hasn't really made friends, and then now she's making friends with everyone else that's a part of the Power Rangers, and she kind of reveals to everyone that she has issues with her family because she's...
sexuality and things like that. So, you still didn't get a lot from her, though, right?
No, not much
actually,
at
both
all.
girls. Let's get into Kimberly.
Yeah.
Kimberly still didn't really say anything. Okay, she shared... What was it? She shared a photo.
I'm assuming it was a nude. Let's be honest.
I thought her... Honestly, out of all the characters, I thought her backstory was the weakest.
I felt like she was a little superficial, and I know that Kimberly is sort of like that, but I felt like she just lacked substance.
Well, she's supposed to be like the cheerleading type, that kind of thing. I just don't... I think they didn't portray her character good enough. I thought Trini was okay, where she was quiet. She had a lot of issues, a lot of internal issues, people judging her, whatever. Where Kimberly was really... It was very surface level.
My life is awful.
Yeah, it was very, very high school, I guess. I mean, you could say that about it.
I guess that makes sense.
But what I did like about what this movie did was how it brought them together.
Yes, they all came together, they all shared their flaws, and they're like, okay, look, I love you, we're a family.
Yeah, we saw that, that was the whole reason they couldn't morph or whatever. I don't know if I was a big fan of that storyline, but the reason they couldn't morph, like it's this internal thing, was because they didn't know each other. They weren't a team. The gods that create Power Rangers or something knew that these people just weren't ready or whatever that was.
I kind of liked that storyline, though, because it made it seem like they were brought together, because before that happened, they were just individual people. They were like, all right, let's do this. We're picked for Power Rangers. And then when that happened, and you see that they have to come together to actually morph, you can see that development there. Yeah, and I guess since they all had their issues, they all had sort of daddy issues in a way, or family, whether the dad would, be gone, or dead, or, because we really don't know what happened to Zach's dad. I guess he just left. I don't know if he left or if he died. We don't really know. They never mentioned his dad.
You know, so everybody had family issues in this. So, especially in high school or, you know, a teenager in any sort where you're all trying to discover yourself and your friends and all that, and you kind of realize that being an adult is, you know, being able to accept other people for whatever their flaws are. And, you know, it was nice to see that on screen. That's how they built. One thing about this movie, this was almost like a prequel to the movie we should get.
Yes, you're right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And really, the movie was probably a little too long. I would say it was like 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Right.
A lot. There was some drag in the movie.
I feel like there's a good chunk in the middle of that could have been cut or.
And it was hard to cut because they really had to tell a story.
You had to have that to develop the characters.
But yeah, it was just probably a little too long, and it was really a setup. This movie was to set you up in the Power Ranger world, and now, like, when the next movie comes out, we're gonna know who they are. And we're going to be good. This is what Batman vs. Superman should have done.
Yes.
Right? The movie might not have been fantastic, but you have to build the story and then have an awesome movie.
It would have still been equally as long.
yeah. So that's what have been...
More
that's,
substance.
You know, just to say that, I guess.
Now let's get to Rita. I really love Elizabeth Banks. I think she's a great actress. She's so dynamic and versatile. And I really liked what she did with Rita.
Okay, so this I'm going to have... I guess my real opinion will have to be in the second part of this review when we go into that.
Probably so.
But I think she did an okay job. I did like what Lionsgate did with sort of the dark and evil side of her.
She was so scary. Like, when she first came up out of the water, I was like, oh my god.
I know.
No, thank you.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the beginning of the movie. We have to talk about the beginning.
That's true, we do.
So we'll talk about Scorpina in a minute.
Let's finish Rita.
No, we'll go into Rita because Rita, she's beginning in the middle of it.
That's
so
true.
Rita's story, like the beginning of the movie, had me hooked.
I know when it first started, I was like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm sitting there, you know, with my candy or whatever, and then you see Zord. Well, you see the Red Ranger, you know, running from like a planet that's getting destroyed.
Right.
And then he takes his helmet off, and if that wasn't Zordon, I was like, holy crap!
We both kind of looked at each other like, did you see that? Did you see that?
And not only that, he's an alien, and all the Power Rangers are aliens. They don't look human, which of course, well, I guess he seemed human, right?
He had like humanoid features, but you could still tell he was an alien.
A very weird sort of avatar/humanoid. It was real strange.
That's a perfect example.
But we learn that Rita is the Green Ranger. She was the Green Ranger in Zordon's group,
in the original
basically.
Group, yeah.
But she goes bad.
She turns evil, guys, and then she wants to take over the world.
And she's killed everybody but Zordon, but Zordon's dying. He's getting ready to die, and he does die. Did a comet hit? I couldn't tell what happened.
He calls in a comet. He's like, send the comet to these coordinates.
Okay, yeah. And then just everything explodes, and you can see that the green crystal goes flying off her staff, and you can assume she's dead. But Zordon hurries up and buries all of the crystals.
He like wraps them up in his chest and then just goes down into the ground with them.
Buries them, and then that's it. So cut to modern times. She's actually at the bottom of the ocean, and some fishermen drag her up out of the net, and they're like, oh crap, a dead body. And she looked freaky.
She looked like a mummy, something horrible, scary at a haunted house.
Very creepy, and they put her down in the bottom of the boat with all the fish.
Yes.
Yeah. Throw ice on her or whatever, and then call the cops to say, hey, we have a dead body.
Right.
Well, you can tell there's something going on because her eyes are lighting up green and stuff like that. It got a little weird. And then, like, a cop came in, and then she killed a cop.
Like, what was that smell?
Yeah, and she needed gold. That was her whole thing. Yeah. They needed gold. She needed gold. Like, she was sucking myself gold to live.
Scary.
Little weird. And then eventually that led into Golar, which I did not care for. I don't like...
I don't like the design of Golar.
I don't like the design of Golar, and a lot of the designs I didn't like, which I'll talk about after this. For Golar to literally be a big chunk of gold...
He had no face, he was just molten gold
I like to have a face to something, but, you know, I get it, what they're doing, I understood it. But it was a little weird that she needed so much gold, and then when she did get her gold and she went into the jewelry shop...
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about when she went into the jewelry store. When she went in there and started, like, sucking up that woman's necklace, I was like, oh my god,
yeah, but she looked creepy.
She looked very creepy.
So, you know, when you can see that thing and judge at, like, what is going on, it looked cool enough to say, alright, I'm in. So Rita becomes young again, she has enough gold, now she's ready to attack the world and find the Zeo crystal or whatever she's trying to do. And that was kind of an interesting scene for her to get, for her to morph old to new. I like that look. That was cool.
I liked that look. I think that all of the gold that she has in her skin around her, and the creepy nails in her eyes, everything about the design of her, I really enjoy.
I would say that she'd lost the character a few times in the movie.
She did.
Sometimes she was great and scary, and then other times I looked at her when she was acting. Yeah, it was a little corny. Now, you know, obviously Power Rangers does have some corniness. I just thought she lost a little bit of it in a way. And really, as far as design goes with her, she was way more Scorpina than she was Rita.
You're right.
I prefer the witch Rita. But I know they're going with like the alien theme in this movie. So Billy and Jason become friends in detention. Billy's like a scientist, he's a nerd. He loves rocks.
His OCD.
Yeah, and they go drive off into like a stone quarry.
Right, he goes mining because Billy and his father used to go mining before his father passed away. So he's kind of talking to his dad as he's setting up all of this dynamite.
Yeah, and then they go into the rocks and he wants to do it. Jason's like, nah, I'm out of here. Jason takes off. He sees Kimberly. And then we get a cut scene to Zach where he's looking at Trini. So we all know they're all here at the quarry at the same time. Well, Billy's in the rocks. He's blowing them up and then boom, he explodes. You saw that in the trailer. We know that happened. Or you know that happened because you've seen the trailer or you've seen the movie, obviously. So he grabs the crystals. They all grab the crystals, whatever. They go home. Well, actually get in a wreck. The train hits
them. They get into a car wreck, a bad car wreck. All 5 of them.
When that train hit, I was like, come on, that's tacky. There's no way they lived. Well, then I realized later they were trying to tell you, no, they have special powers. They're strong now. Totally good. I love that.
They can survive that wreck.
I love that idea. That was a good idea.
But I still don't know how they got home. Did they ever address that in the movie? Ever?
They didn't. I don't think they did.
That has always bothered me. I'm sorry.
So they get home and they realize, hey, we have some powers. You know, we saw how Billy gets punched in his face. Jason smashes his sink for whatever reason. Yada, yada, yada. Well, they decide they need to go back to the quarry. They dive in the water. You know what happened. You know, upside down, Stranger Things into the water. Right. And then, here we go. They go into this spaceship and they meet Alpha 5.
I thought Alpha 5 was really cute. I know you have your qualms.
I
didn't like it.
Hated Alpha 5.
I loved the design.
I hated the design. I hated the voice. He didn't feel like a robot. I hated the CG. They should have done it practical effects. I feel like he was kind of a modern day robot or even an advanced robot. That's why I really liked him. What was that face? He looked like a bug. Like,
I liked that.
These long arms. And
I liked Alpha 5. I thought he was cute.
He looked like he belonged on the Auto Monsters, to be fair. He should have been Alpha 5 or something. I don't know. I didn't care for it, honestly.
You were wrong.
I want to do that later because I really want to vent about that. But fun enough. But outside of my love for Power Rangers, I just didn't like him. I didn't think he felt like a robot. He didn't really play a part. He wasn't funny.
Well,
he wasn't cute.
My favorite line from him is when he was like, he was speaking to Zordon in their language, whatever the language was.
That was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh, the language here is just some like modern caveman, old school language. You'll find it somewhere. That's what I liked about him.
How'd you feel about Zordon in the wall? It was like, woof.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, it was a little too much.
It was too pixelated. It was creepy looking. I was like, this doesn't look right.
I could deal with the pixel or like the like that. I don't know what you call that, but it's like that game.
Like that hand.
Everybody puts their hand on like a middle finger. Everybody does it. They put a middle finger on it, put it on the shelf, and run away. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody does. Don't judge me. I just didn't care if it was like Jason would talk and he'd go, "Whoom!" What'd you say? Whoom! What'd you say? Threw me off a little bit. I was like, just keep him stagnant, keep him right in the center, like a computer or whatever.
I felt like you couldn't tell it was Bryan Cranston. That's what kind of was a little bummer for me because I love Bryan Cranston.
Really? I could definitely tell Bryan Cranston.
I couldn't tell it. I mean, voice-wise, yes. Face, I couldn't tell it from all the pixels.
I thought it was a lot more detailed than what we saw in his tube. Now, granted, I think the tube should have definitely been upgraded. I wouldn't have wanted to saw that in the movie. That definitely needed upgraded. Just a little weird, but I did kind of like the command center. It was pretty cool.
I thought it was kind of fun.
I do want to say that, so they have to morph on this little, like, computer thing now?
I thought
this
that
little
was
circle?
weird.
They're not allowed to go, it's morphin' time!
Well,
they never did that once in the movie.
No, they never did that
They never even used their morpher.
No, you're right, they never did.
We saw all these morphers for sale and stuff as toys. They never used it.
Although, they can morph outside of being on that pad, though, because if you remember, Billy morphed when he was separating Jason and Zach.
Right, but why? So it was like a feeling thing?
It was because he cared about them, and he was like, don't guys, stop!
But when did we decide that morphing is done by feelings?
I don't know.
And not saying, it's freaking morphin' time! That's the way you do it. Like, that's the way you do it, So eventually the movie goes on, and they become friends, like we said. They were up there on the campfire, and, whatever. They became friends. They shared their feelings, yeah. So feelings are how you morph in this movie. But then we see them able to morph eventually later in the movie when Billy was killed by Rita. Zordon wants to come out of the whatever that thing is and become a Power Ranger.
He wants to be the Red Ranger and lead the Rangers because Jason is failing at his job.
Yeah, but he realizes that he's better off to save Billy's life, give his life up basically because he's not alive. Zordon's not alive.
No.
He's actually, they just kind of took his memory and implanted it into a computer program basically. But he still had the option, I guess, to come back out alive. But he gave that to Billy. Billy was alive, and then they realized, okay, now is the time to become the Power Rangers.
I know.
I felt that.
I felt that too. I really enjoyed that scene because everyone was so devastated about Billy dying, and I thought it was really sweet how they carried him and then they dropped him down in the water. And they all kind of like hugged around him and carried him down to Zordon.
That's Power Rangers, right? It's tacky. You know,
it may have been tacky, but
it has feelings.
Right, it makes you care about the characters, and that's what I like.
Yeah, and that's what the Power Rangers are about. I mean, if you watch the old Power Rangers, they did that so much.
Yes.
You know, where you feel, oh, God. But at the same time, you feel, oh, God. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it did that. It did that for me. I was touched. I was like, yeah. They morph, they're Power Rangers now, and they get their Zords.
Yeah, the Zords.
The Zord. No, I'll talk about the Zords in a minute. Because, oh God! But they played the music. They played the Power Rangers music.
We were both like,
go Power Rangers!
Yes.
And then the movie went. Because, and I say that because now it became a product placement movie.
Yes, it did.
And I'm okay with product placements in movies. It's not a big deal. I understand. But they made everything about Krispy Kreme.
It was so annoying the amount of times they're like, Krispy Kremes? What's Krispy Kremes? Krispy Kremes? Krispy Kremes. It's at Krispy Kremes. Shut up with Krispy Kreme.
Everybody needed to go to the Krispy Kreme.
Yes.
Like the Power Rangers knew they needed to go to the Krispy Kreme. Rita needed to know she needed to go to Krispy Kreme. They kept saying Krispy Kreme. Every Power Ranger said Krispy Kreme out of their mouth. Rita
At least once.
She ate a freaking donut.
I know, she was sitting there like, oh, what's this?
The crystal was underneath Krispy Kreme. Now, I get it. Krispy Kreme paid a ton of money, I'm sure, for the movie.
They had to have.
How I would have handled it, though, like, if it was me, and I understand product placement, I totally get it. But if it was me, like, when the movie ended and everybody was celebrating because the Power Rangers destroyed Rita,
Right.
then they should have gone to Krispy, like, they should have gone to Krispy Kreme, like, or not them, not the Power Rangers, but, like, the crowd. They should have been celebrating, and, like, Krispy Kreme had celebration donuts for the Power Rangers.
Donuts for them, yes.
Then they could have brought in the product placement, and then those same donuts are available at Krispy Kreme, so you're going to be more apt to go buy it. Instead of forcing it so much on the crowd, very off-putting. I mean, you take Man of Steel. Man of Steel was a lot like this movie. They were fighting down Main Street.
That's true.
But Sears, they had product placement in Man of Steel where Superman gets thrown into Sears, and then they fight, and then they leave Sears.
Yeah, it's very subtle. It's not
subtle.
so overpowering.
You can see it on Main Street. You can see that it's Sears, but it wasn't so, like, detrimental to the story. Yeah, a little weird. But here we go. Rita's strong. She's fighting. They find the crystal. She tells Goldar, this big chunk of gold, to punch the ground until he finds the rock or whatever. Yeah, and then the Power Rangers, they fight him with their Zords. Cool scene. I thought.
Very cool scene. I really liked that.
Obviously an upgrade from the original Power Rangers movie. CG was very new at the time.
Yeah, the original one.
Chrome back then? Oh, I still remember as a kid, we'd talk about that chrome was great, but when I look at it now, I'm like, oh my God.
It's so bad.
No reflections, nothing. I thought the fight was good. I thought it was cool.
The fight. I thought
very
it was
short, though.
It was very short. It was nice when they all came together at the end and they're like, all right, we're going to stand up. We're going to defend this. Stay as long as you possibly can. We're here. And then, boom, into the hole.
And then something weird happens.
Very weird.
You know the Power Rangers, when they become a Megazord, they all, like, Megazord power, and then they all become a giant Megazord. Well, they became a Megazord by jumping in a ball of fire and like melting into a giant Megazord that has no style, and I'll talk about that later. The thing that really bothered me, though, is how they're not in one, like, cockpit.
Right, I was mad about that too.
There's, like, bubbles everywhere.
It's like, hey, you control this leg, no, you control this leg, I've got the heart, and you girls control the arms.
I think that was a big misstep.
I thought so too.
You need them to come together. That's the point.
I mean, I understand.
They come together. They're a team inside this cockpit. That's what's cool.
Right. I
not little bubbles.
Right. But I understand what they were trying to do with the bubbles because it makes sense to have each person on the ligament that they're controlling, and have Jason in the center because he's the leader. I get what they were trying to do, but I prefer them all to be like what you said in one console together.
Yeah. So they fight. Whatever. They beat Rita. They beat Goldar. Actually, they smacked Rita into space, which I like. I like that. So now we're probably going to see Rita land on the moon, create her little moon building or whatever.
Hopefully she comes back with a horn.
Yeah, and then Lord Zed will probably come in the next movie. Or Rita might end up giving the green crystal she'll find the green crystal because her green crystal came off again. She might find that green crystal and then give it to, we saw Tommy Oliver
at the end.
In credit scenes, you know Tommy Oliver's coming in the next one. Yes. So that's probably what's going to happen. She's going to give that. He's going to be a Bad Ranger. That's who they're going to fight. It will kind of be at a standpoint, and then they'll turn him into good, just like in the TV series. I'd totally be down for that. I'm very glad, though, that they didn't try to take their own artistic approach and make Tommy a girl.
Yeah,
I really didn't want them to do that. I want them to stick to the story, at least the sexes. I don't care what they do with the colors. I don't care what they do with the actors. I just don't want them to change the sexes of who they were.
Right.
Meaning, like Tommy Oliver, he should be a boy. You know, whatever color he is, I don't care.
Right.
In a way, I still want him to be green, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that's important to me.
Right.
And I'm glad they didn't take this artistic approach and decide they're going to make it a girl like Elizabeth Banks I was scared of. I was like...
Well, it's already so balanced, and then, you know, Tommy becomes the leader of the Power Rangers eventually, so I really want that storyline to kind of stay put because they've changed so much already.
So, I kind of see where they're going with this.
I can too.
Rita's going to turn him evil. He's going to fight the Power Rangers. We're going to get to see a Dragon Zord.
Yay!
And that's what's going to happen, and probably towards the end of it. And maybe the third movie might be Lord Zed.
I can't wait to see who they cast as Tommy Oliver, though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's going to have a ponytail. Just have a ponytail, right?
He has to have a ponytail.
Please have a ponytail.
I mean,
and please no karate, too.
Yes,
It looked like his jacket might have been something there. I don't know. Speaking of Tommy Oliver, though, I was very excited to see something out. It really made me feel like,
we were both like...
Yeah.
Oh my god.
One of the things that really I wanted in this movie to really make old Power Rangers fans feel like, okay, I'm okay with this. We've now handed off the mantle to a new generation,
Right.
and they did everything I needed them to do. They had Amy Jo Johnson and Jason David Frank in the audience, I guess, in the crowd, looking up and taking a photo.
I know, Jason David Frank was like...
Yeah. Yeah, the original green/white Ranger and the Pink Ranger, I assume now married.
They have to be married. I'm hoping so anyways.
I assume now married, you know, the timeline would match up. It was just so cool to see that.
They had the look on their face like they knew something, but they didn't want to say something.
They were like, cool, yeah.
Yeah, like this.
That was neat. I just love that, and I was so glad they did it. Could they have brought the other Power Rangers in it too? Yeah, probably. But they really kind of needed to focus in on the crowd because there's a bunch of people and it would have been hard probably to spread it out in 5 people.
And I feel like Jason David Frank has been the person who has been advocating for the Power Rangers. He's been
he deserves it.
Right, he deserves it. He's been the voice that's been ever present since the 90s.
And not just Mighty Morphin, but in a lot of different versions. He's been every Power Ranger just about nowadays.
That's right.
But it was so great to see that as a Power Rangers fan, and it really made me feel, leaving that theater... Okay, it's in good hands. Lionsgate I'm scared of because sometimes Lionsgate does some things that I'm not super thrilled with, and they did it in the movie too, where like everybody held up their finger and stuff. That was very Hunger Games, you know, Lionsgate Hunger Games. They also had this crawling scene at the beginning of the movie where Trini was like crawling up a mountain.
Did she like monkey climbed? It
looked very Twilight.
Yeah.
I didn't care for that.
When Edward climbs the tree, he's like, hold on, spider monkey.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
But overall, I left the movie thinking, that was a pretty good movie.
When we left, we were both kind of like, okay, I like this. It was enjoyable. It's not like, you know, jump over the fence and shout to the crowds, but it was like, okay, this is okay.
Yeah. And it kind of forced that because it's not, like we said, it's not a movie. It's a movie to set you up for another movie.
Exactly.
That's what it is. But overall, I enjoyed it. As a Power Rangers fan, there's a lot I have a problem with. Most importantly, I mean, the movie could have been better. The pacing could have been better.
Right.
But the characters, the actors did great.
I liked the actors. I liked the Rangers. I felt like now that the movie is over, we can feel like this group of Rangers can move forward and make some great movies.
I just hope that maybe in the next round, they'll give them coins instead of rocks and then change their whole outfits.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, but optimism.
So with that said, you know, we did like the movie, and, you know, if I was going to rate it, outside perspective, not a Power Rangers fan, I would give it a solid 7.
I'd probably give it about 7.25.
Yeah.
A little bit higher.
It was a good movie. I mean, 7's it's a good score. It's really hard to get a great score, but you know, it was a good movie. It doesn't leave me thinking, oh crap, at all. Thankfully.
No, definitely.
So they at least did something right with the series that other brands are failing right now. So we'll see what happens in the future. Alrighty, so let's get into the ones like the fanboy. This is the rant alert, things that I had a big problem with the movie.
Might want to turn the volume down.
Yeah, might want to. It won't be that bad. But if you don't want to hear somebody get mad at some things and, you know, you value your opinion so much you're going to yell at us or whatever. Number one, the biggest problem with this movie was the designs. The designs are awful.
Yeah, I didn't care for the suit designs for any of the Rangers.
Or the Zord designs.
Yeah, or the Zords.
You know, especially Alpha 5.
Or Goldar.
Let me cut it in half here and start with one section here. First off, the suits. The suits I can deal with. I think there's too many varying colors in the suit, though.
You know, one thing I liked about the suits is how it kind of meshed with their skin, so you could see it come through. That was kind of cool.
I just think there's too much gray and blue in it and stuff. I would change a lot of that just to red or whatever color they are. I did like the lights on the back of the spine, though.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I did like sort of the weird space thing in the center, where it's not solid white. Now, I know a lot of people would rather see their logo of the dinosaur, so we can actually tell what they are, because their helmets don't, it doesn't explain what they are.
Nope.
I would say the red Red Ranger is probably the only helmet that I can say, okay, I can see a T-Rex in it.
Kimberly a little bit too with the pterodactyl.
Yeah, but the suits I can deal with. I can deal with them. But those helmets are awful. There's just no way around it. They're just awful. They look bad on screen. I think the one thing that they've done here as far as designs, they've added way too much detail in everything.
Yeah, they've kind of gone overkill. One of my biggest problems with the suits, and I know many people probably are going to care about this, but after they had walked out in their suits and you could see their butts, like it was super creepy to me.
A little off-putting. They had weird butt pads, and I don't know what you would have done.
I don't know either, but I was like,
it was a little strange.
Okay.
It really maybe just a shot. They shouldn't do so many shots of the butt like that.
Maybe not.
Because it was a little strange. But overall, I would probably get rid of a lot of those accent colors and go more streamlined with the color that they are. Maybe different shades, maybe different values. It doesn't matter. It's just, it looks so busy on screen, and that's the problem I have. Especially the helmets. One thing that made the old helmets so great, you knew exactly what their dinosaur was on their helmet. You knew exactly. Going into the Zords, though, okay, so the T-Rex was fantastic.
Oh, I loved him, but my problem with him is he looked kind of small. I mean, I know
they were all a little
huge,
small, but I guess they were more in line with, I guess, what the dinosaurs' heights really were,
I guess that's probably true, but I really liked the design of it.
That became a problem, though, when they became the Megazord.
Yes,
where the Megazord was way bigger than what those Zords would have created.
Zords and then a giant one.
And not to mention, well, we'll go into that in a minute. But I still want to go into the helmets. I just think the helmets are awful. But I'll stay into the Zords real fast so I don't get sidetracked. The T-Rex was great. The design of that was fantastic. You can't really screw up a pterodactyl.
No,
so,
not
really. I'm okay with the pterodactyl. But then when we get into the mastodon, I didn't see a mastodon in that at all.
I could not tell the other 3 dinosaurs at all.
Very Transformers. You could obviously tell what they were doing there. It was very Pacific Rim, but I don't think you really needed to do that necessarily. I just thought the mastodon was awful. You could not tell it was a mastodon. And that's a design you could have a lot of fun with. Really, you could. Yeah, and they did. The Triceratops I could see in certain scenes, but most of the time, like I said, they're too busy. You can't see what they are on screen. All you see is like a mashed potato look.
Yeah, very much.
It's too busy. Too much.
I didn't like the 3 characters. I liked the pterodactyl and I liked the T-Rex, but the other 3 I was like, what are they? Yeah, very hard to tell. And Saber-tooth Tiger, I didn't see that at all. Nope, not at all.
I don't know what was going on there. So, besides the helmets, the Zords were one of their weakest points as far as design purposes go. I just couldn't tell what they were. I need to see, like when you're looking at something on screen especially, I need to see what they are. I know that it's maybe a little tacky or hard to do, but I really need to see that. And I'm scared what they would do to the Dragon Zord if that same group designed the Dragon Zord. Really, I just think you need to get new designers. It's just not good. And one way you could do that, one way you could change a lot of that. The Zords might be too far gone. You might not be able to redesign those because of the story. If Zordon, I guess, would just change those rocks to coins, that would make sense if he says, hey, we're going to redesign you, Rangers. We're going to give you new powerful stuff to take on the Green Ranger or something like that. And gave them coins instead of the rocks. They could get new outfits, new helmets, that kind of thing.
I really hope they do that in the next movie.
I just did not care for the designs of anything, really. Rita, I saw Rita on the trailer before the movie, and I thought, okay, it seems kind of cool. But after watching it, I was a little disappointed. I thought it was cool. And I mean, I thought it looked good, but it was way more Scorpina than it was Rita. I want to see a crazy gold
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like my
something.
biggest problem with Rita is in the early 90s version, she's like very flamboyant. She's got all of these different aspects of her costume that look really nice. And in this one, she's very skimpy. She's not got all of the craziness going on.
She reminded me very much of Enchantress.
Oh, yes, she did.
So, and that's not necessarily
especially when she's eating all of the gold in the jewelry store.
And just like the dirty hand. I mean, she was very Enchantress. I would prefer if they would have done the gold in her outfit instead. And stayed away from so much of the green. I get it, she was the Green Ranger, but I want to see Rita in the gold. That might change in the next movie.
I kind of like that because she's going back to being the Green Ranger. She's still in that element when she was a Ranger. And I think maybe in the next movie we'll get that design that you're hoping for because, like you said, maybe we'll get the Green Ranger with Tommy. I mean, it's
a big change from the original canon. I mean, like it's a very big change for her to be the Green Ranger and then that scene. So, you know, I don't know if I felt great with it, but it was all right. Goldar, I want to talk about her puppet, Goldar. So I really want faces on whatever I see.
Yeah, I feel like he wasn't like an actual character. He was just this like giant blob following her.
So remember the movie Flubber?
Yeah. Yes.
If you made Flubber gold and made him huge, that's what he was. I mean, I get it. But Goldar was so cool in the original show.
Yeah, he was. He was kind of scary.
He was a gargoyle, you know?
Right.
And it was really cool to see him with the wings and stuff, where this was a solid piece of gold. Going to the stores and seeing the toys of this makes you really realize how poor their designs are.
Yeah, definitely.
They have some really crappy toys, honestly. Goldar looks like a chunk of plastic. The Megazord looks absolutely awful, in my opinion. He's big. And now, I get it, kids aren't going to care. But once again, this is the section of Power Rangers fans. The thing about Power Rangers, all the designs were so great back then. Whether it's the monsters, or the Zords, or the Power Rangers suits, helmets, whatever. That was one thing that made the Power Rangers so amazing, is the designs. The design team on the Power Rangers is one of the best I've ever seen, honestly. On every single episode, they would have this amazing looking, and really even today, they have these amazing looking villains, and that's what you gave us, a big chunk of gold.
Right, there's absolutely no design behind it, there's no thought, it's just kind of like, alright, look, we're out of time, gold, that's it.
Let's get into Alpha 5. I could not stand Alpha 5.
Really? I really liked Alpha 5. I know that I said this already, but I liked the way that he was kind of chibi, he was fun. I don't know, I just enjoyed him.
He looked like an alien to me. Like,
He's supposed to
I get it, but he was like a bug, man. They all look like bugs. The Power Ranger helmets look like bugs. Alpha 5 looked like a bug.
Well, they were all very buggy, and I don't know if that's them bringing in the alien aspect and design to it. I don't really know, but I liked Alpha 5.
My biggest problem is I didn't like the eyes that came off, like I didn't care for that.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I can dig the little whatever that thing, the universe inside of his head.
It looked like kind of Saturn or something.
Yeah, like I could dig that. If Zordon lives in a computer, why is Alpha 5 not a robot?
I don't know. I liked Alpha 5. I liked the fighting scene when he was teaching everyone to fight, and then his arms would come up and his head would move around, and that made me feel like he was an actual robot.
He reminded me of a monkey. Like, he had these long arms, and he was like, walk like this. I didn't like his voice. I didn't like how
hated it.
I didn't like it. That was the worst thing in the movie for me. Like, I don't think he did bad. I didn't think that Alpha's position in the movie was bad or anything. I just didn't like the designs. I mean, overall, the movie, I thought the movie was good.
I thought the movie was great.
I thought the movie was good. I wouldn't say it's the best Power Ranger thing of all time, but I feel like that they can take that and make a great series out of it. Like I said, I think the movie was a little long in places and a little boring in places, but it was also very exciting in other places. As a Power Ranger fan, I don't feel like they ruined the series. I think that's good. That's a very good thing to say.
Right.
I just think their designs are not good. And I think that the studio needs to look at that and say, okay, you know, what can I do to make it better? They need, it's just my opinion, obviously, because I'm a Power Rangers fan and I like design, and I can tell what looks good and what looks bad, and I don't think it looks good. And I think I can speak for most of the people that can say they should probably adjust the designs a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the designs need to be adjusted. I know we said this several times now. But I think that this is a great starting point to relaunch the Power Rangers series and bring in new fans.
Yeah, and I guess one of the bigger things that too that sort of bothered me is how the Megazord came together.
Yeah, I didn't like that because I liked how in the original 90s version everybody was like, they would say their Zord's name and kind of everybody would just come together. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they literally would snap in place, which made toys great because you could take those individual dinosaurs and make it. Well, nowadays, no, you just get a big plastic hunk of guy that's called the Megazord, and that's it. That's not fun. Right. I know I connect everything, all my opinions to toys for some reason, but I think it does make a difference. So Power Rangers sells the crap out of stuff.
Yes, they do.
So, for a studio to say, just make it this way, I think they don't realize how much money they lose.
Well, yeah, because if you would actually sell if you design, like you said, how they snap together, and then sell the individual Zords, and then have them connect in some manner to make the Megazord, you would make so much money by doing that.
Cool. That's a cool factor.
Right.
Why in Hollywood have you lost so much of the cool factor?
I don't know, but it's kind of annoying.
I like the movie, like I said, and I don't want to tear it apart because it doesn't deserve it to be torn apart.
No, the only parts that we want to tear apart mainly are the design elements because we kind of felt like they were a little lacking, a little clunky. They just didn't feel right.
They did a lot of good things. They did some poor things. I would say that the coins are cool, or the rocks or whatever.
Right.
Originally I was like, ugh. But after watching the movie, I was okay with it.
It makes sense.
The Zords, no. The outfits, half no. The monsters, you got to give us something better than a hunk of gold next time.
Yeah.
But I do like what they set up. Like I said, I can't wait to see what happens next movie. Hopefully it will be a next movie.
Right.
Where Rita gets launched into space. I'm sure she's on the moon now, or somebody will save her in space. Maybe Lord Zed, who knows.
Maybe.
So they helped out the Power Rangers fan, which is the most important thing. They obviously kicked a lot of it to the side, the important things, but they did give us those special moments like where Tommy and Kimberly were taking photos. They gave us a little bit of the Power Rangers music, even though it was sort of weird. The cut was strange. It only gave us like 5 seconds.
That's true.
It was in a weird time in the movie. And overall, I would say one of the poorer things of the movie, at least the plot, was bringing in Krispy Kreme into it so much.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they do make another movie, which I'm hoping that they will, it seems like they're going to, I hope we don't have a whole lot of Krispy Kreme or whatever other product placement.
Like I said, I get it. I get product placement, but you got to be careful with that. You can't make it...
It's got to be subtle.
I mean,
it can't be like...
Everything ended up with the Krispy Kreme.
Everything.
Like, the whole movie was about going to Krispy Kreme.
Right, like when Rita found out that, you know, right when she killed Billy and she found out, oh, it's at the Krispy Kreme, she said it like 5 times and very awkwardly each time.
Just strange. Like I said, I would have changed it to where when everybody was celebrating at the end, when the town was happy that they had saved Angel Grove, bring the camera into Krispy Kreme where people are celebrating. Krispy Kreme hands out donuts with the Power Ranger logo, the lightning bolt on it, like, yay, like they're their saviors. It makes way more sense. It's a more pivotal part of the movie, and it will get the crowd, like us, the watchers, to say, let's go get some freaking Krispy Kreme donuts.
Right, let's
now it just makes me say, you know what I'm saying?
You know, one thing that I really liked about the plot that they did in the movie was you had all of this tension between Jason and his dad at the beginning, and then at the very end when Jason saves his dad out of the truck. I really enjoyed that.
It had a lot of good moments in the movie. I mean, the movie was good. It really is good, and
there's a lot of wholesome family moments in it that I thought, oh, okay, I didn't expect this.
It's very Power Rangers, and that's the most important thing. Corny, happy, funny. Not enough action. I don't
think there was enough action, but there was a little.
And overall, I guess the thing that bothered me a lot too was that none of them knew karate.
Yeah. Maybe in the next movie they're going to be taking karate together to try to build up. Maybe this was, part of it.
It's just hard to say, guys, because the movie was such a setup.
It was your basic bare minimum. This is kind of the storyline, and we're going to move to this in the next movie.
Like I said, I loved the movie. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. It's going to be a movie I 100% buy, but I will not buy any of the toys.
No, probably not.
Besides Pops. But I just didn't. I didn't like any of that extra stuff. I'm like, maybe the coins, I guess. If they have a really good Rocky coin thing that you can see through, I'd probably buy it. But they didn't really set up the collector enough, I don't think, in the movie because of those designs. Alrighty, so guys, that was our opinion. That was our thought. What was yours? What did you think about the movie? Did you love it? Are you a Power Rangers fan and you were like, no, I'm not having this? Are you excited for the future like we are? Did you think it was a setup? Did you think it was a movie in its own, or did you think it was a movie to take place to make another movie?
I feel like this movie is going to be a trilogy at least.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, guys, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.